Hey everybody, this is BJ Murphy with the BJ Murphy 360 show and podcast, and I've got with me today Mr. Bryan Hanks. Glad to have you on the show.
I'm honored to be a part of it.
And who's our special guest?
Oh, this is Molly Ringwald Hughes Hanks, the puppy dog.
Molly Ringwald. Okay, you got to explain that one.
Well, my favorite, she's America's sweetheart, Molly Ringwald,
Yeah.
and as you can tell how loving she is with you right now, the sweetest puppy dog ever. Just had her 8th birthday on March 20th.
Happy birthday, Molly.
She definitely, she knew you were coming to do this, and she's been very excited about it. It's all she could talk about for like the last 3 or 4 hours, okay?
So Bryan, tell us a little about you. I mean, I've known you because I've been involved civically in my hometown, Kinston, North Carolina, where I met you. You were kind of the sports editor, then you became the managing editor. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing today.
Well, I was born in Wilkes County. I was in the Army for a few years. Went to UNC Charlotte. Worked in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system for a little bit, and decided.
What'd you do there?
I was a teacher in
Okay,
Charlotte-Mecklenburg. Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
things you didn't know. You heard it first.
I know, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I loved working. I loved reading sports. Love sports, as you can tell, as you're sitting in here in my man cave right now. And was working for the Gaston Gazette on weeknights and on weekends and everything. And just one summer, decided not to go back to school and decided to become a sports writer. Ended up working for the Lincoln Times News, then went to Gastonia, went to Shelby.
Right.
In a period of about 4 or 5 years. And in 2002, a good friend of both of ours, Drew Loftus, got me to Kinston, and I was coming to Kinston for 2 years because I was going to be the next grade ACC basketball sports writer, and just fell in love with it here, and I've been here since 2002. Yes.
Yeah. And so tell me about this right here, because I grew up a Redskins fan because my dad was served in the Navy for a couple of years, and so he went to a few games. So I grew up watching the Redskins on TV. But why is it in the center of us to today?
Because hail to the Redskins. They are the great, in my opinion. I mean, and I know you're going to have Steeler fans, you're going to have Cowboys fans, probably Patriots fans, who will say that there are better franchises. But it's the very first team I ever followed. I was 7 years old at Trap Hill Elementary School, and read one of the little school books they used to have all the time about. They had a whole set of them for the whole NFL. I read the one about the Redskins, fell in love with it, and have been a Redskins fan now for more than 40 years.
An unashamed Redskins fan at that. I mean, if maybe I'll get a shot or two after this, and you'll kind of see his wall. But in order to be a Redskins fan, you have to live with defeat.
Yes, you do.
In the hopes that one day we're going to get back to that national championship.
Well, I think it makes you a better person too. I mean, anybody can be a Duke fan.
Oh my gosh!
Anybody can be a Carolina fan.
Gracious.
You can be a Patriots fan. You can be a Yankees fan.
We're cutting this interview.
Yeah,
That's it.
But you know what I'm saying. But I'm also a Virginia fan. Probably Lenore County's, if not the biggest, one of the biggest Virginia fans in the county. And I think it builds character. And I think when the Redskins finally win another Super Bowl, and I hope it happens in our lifetime, that's going to be a great moment, you know. And it's the same thing with Virginia. If Virginia ever does anything in, in basketball.
So let's talk about NCAA then. We everybody knows, if you don't, I'm a big Duke fan. I have been since forever. And you're a Virginia fan. So Duke was coming in as a 2 seed in the Midwest, and you were number 1 seed
in the South.
Yeah. Virginia experienced the most historic loss in our nation's history, and you were there to witness it.
Yeah, do we really? This is the part where you're really going to want to cut. Very, very frustrating. I mean, I was excited because I was working for a couple of different entities in Charlotte that weekend. In fact, the weekend before, had gone to Brooklyn, watched Virginia win the ACC championship, only the 3rd one ever, 2nd one in 4 years. So I had these really big feelings.
We'll get back to why it's in Brooklyn later, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, it's stupid. But so I'm really encouraged, and I'm thinking, we're going to go to Charlotte. watch Virginia win a couple of games, first couple of rounds of the NCAA tournament, then go to Atlanta the next weekend, and then potentially even make it to San Antonio.
Sounds like a fun road trip.
That's what we were working towards. And you know what happened? The rest is history. I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the game against UMBC, and I'm as big a sports fan as you know, and you know this. I didn't even know what UMBC stood for before the brackets were released. If you'd have told me there was a school that was UMBC, I wouldn't have known what it stood for. So, we get to halftime of the game. It's a very good game. It's 21-21 at halftime, and then they come out, and I'm like, this is when Virginia's going to put them away, except it was the exact opposite. They give up 53 points in the second half. Virginia, all season long, had given up only 53 points in a full game, like 12 times all year in a 33-game season. They give up 53 in the second half, and it was just terrible. I felt good for the UMBC folks, which are a lot of them there in Charlotte, but as a Virginia fan, it still hurts. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks now, and my heart is still ripped out.
And how about the Twitter guy for UMBC? I mean, he was on point.
Well, here's what's crazy. He was sitting. I was on press row in Charlotte. He was sitting about 8 seats down from me on press row, and I could tell because I was following him that night too, and people kept coming around him and everything and patting him on the back, and it just got crazy there at the end. I think they had something like 2,000 or 3,000 followers. When the night was over, he had more than 50,000. So it was crazy that he picked up that many followers, or that account picked up that many followers.
I saw he did an op-ed or something, or he just wrote a lone blog the other day, and he talked about that journey. It was really great to see it from his point of view. Yeah. I mean, it's just fun. That makes sports fun. I hate it for you. It's like I think I told you that night or the next day that as a UVA fan, it was depressing. I know, but to be a sports fan, you had to appreciate the history there.
Oh, in fact, just right over there, I still have the box score. I have all my media kit from the game that night because I figure one day when I don't know if the pain, I'm still not over Chaminade yet that happened in 1980. Do you even know what Chaminade is? You're so young. I doubt you remember. Virginia, Ralph Sampson's senior year, went to Hawaii to play in a Hawaiian tournament. The host of the tournament was Chaminade. They were a Division III. Think Mount Olive. Okay. Think if Mount Olive took on the University of North Carolina when they had Jordan and Perkins and all that. It's the exact same thing. Virginia had Ralph Sampson, who was a senior. They had the #1 team in the nation. They go there and they lose to a Mount Olive type team. Wow. And I was still struggling with that one, and that one happened in 1982. So
he doesn't hold grudges too much, folks.
No, not at all. So very frustrating. But again, and I like the way you put it too, BJ, is that I appreciate history, and I was there for history. I hate that it happened, but you know what? I'm still going to be a fan.
Well, and let's talk about just a little bit of local sports, because not everybody that watches this is maybe from Kinston. A lot of people are Lenore County, but some people may be from Georgia, Alabama, California. It's been kind of fun to watch people pick it up all across the country. But, from a local sports guy, when you came in, you were a sports guy and then a sports editor, and then the managing editor, and you've moved on to other things. In my opinion, one thing that is we're not seeing enough of in this generation, or enough focus on the local sports. From the little league baseball to the tennis matchups, to the girls softball games, and I'm talking from 8 years old, middle school. And there's a little bit more focus on high school because local TVs tend to do a good job on football and baseball, but you don't see a lot from the younger kids' perspective on player of the week kind of stuff.
Well, it's tough having worked for the Free Press I didn't finish telling you my story, and that was my fault, but I got here in 2002, was a sports editor, like you said, from 02 to 08, took over on the news side from 08 till I left the paper in 16, and a lot of it's staffing. It really is. I mean, I can actually take up for the folks over at the local newspaper and even the television stations, because if you're wanting to do the job the absolute right way, you got to have more staff.
Is this something that you're seeing across the country in media in general?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just visiting with her again, bringing up Drew Loftus again. Hung out with him for a week when we went up to Brooklyn for the ACC tournament, And even at the New York Post, which is where he is the Sunday sports editor, they've cut their staff in half. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at the local newspaper here, and when I got here in 2002, and there were 21 people in that newsroom, and now, I mean, full-time people, 20 or 21, in 2002, it's 2018, there are 3 in there. Mm-hmm. 3. And they don't even all work full-time in Kinston. They're split among other entities,
it's just
too.
The market, the economics.
You know what? You can't, and I hear all the time, and that's the bad part of me now being out of newspapers, and everywhere I go, and you know this, you've probably seen it happen with me. You know, people are always wanting to denigrate the local product, and I just tell them it's really not their fault. I mean, if you want to get mad at somebody, get mad at the people in, you know, wherever, who owns these newspapers.
Where the Ivory Tower is.
Thank you, absolutely. But you can't be mad at the people who locally work here, because, I mean, they are working hard. You and I both know Dusty George very, very well. Dustin George. See, his friends call him Dusty, though, okay? But I challenge you to find someone who works harder than he does.
Right.
And, I mean, he is a one-man operation. Again, a one-man reporter when there used to be 5 reporters. Mm-hmm. So he's doing the job of 5 different people. So to answer your question about sports coverage, that is the biggest problem. I know when I came into Kinston, and like I said, in 2002, I had a 3-man sports department. Then I had stringers like Keith Spence, who's a good friend of ours, and other people who were helping me in sports. So I literally had 4, 5, or 6 people at my disposal. There's not even anybody in their sports department now. So, I mean, it makes it hard to not just cover the high school stuff, but definitely to cover the recreational type sports that deserve as much coverage as the high school sports. Well, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Okay. You did. The market seems like it's always the answer. Mm-hmm. Let's switch gears for a second.
Before you finish that, though, we got to give some love to Bryan North, who is a very good friend of both of ours, who does a fantastic job. And
Shout out to Bryan North.
Absolutely, Bryan North, who just does an awesome job. And Lynn Hartzell said it best. I remember Lynn, Coach Hartzell very well, when he was over at LCC, and I remember him telling me one time, if a ball is in play, not just a basketball, but any kind of ball or anything in Lenoir County, Bryan North is there. Mm-hmm. And he told me that 16 years ago, and it remains true 16 years later. So
that's a good character reference.
It really is.
I like hearing about that. So we're going to switch gears for a second, because I've known Bryan long enough to know that he is a man of many talent and a man of many opinions. And although his passion is sports, he also keeps up with politics as well. So let's start, as we did before, let's start on the national level. Let's go U.S. Trump. Mm-hmm. He has been a kind of phenomenon for both the Republicans and the Democrats alike. What's your take on his leadership style?
Boy, sorry. All these little softball questions, and then you come in with the gut punch with that one. I'm not a Trump fan.
I get that.
Let's go ahead and establish that. But I respect him to a degree. So no, I'm not trying to play both sides of the card here, but I really do. Where I grew up in northwestern North Carolina, Wilkes County, Trump is huge up there. It's very poor. It's very blue collar. And whatever it is,
NASCAR country.
It is North Wilkesboro. I mean, that's where I'm from, Wilkes County. And whatever, I don't know if he accidentally did it or if it's something that Donald Trump and his people have cultivated, but they have taken a man who is a billionaire, one of the richest people in the United States, and made him palatable to working class white people, especially, like I said, up in northwestern North Carolina. And I'm not denigrating him for that. I'm not applauding him for that.
Right.
What I'm saying is they have crafted his image such that they've taken this billionaire, and made it so white, working class people are attracted to him. So
let me ask you this. As we're both have been in the social media business for a long time.
Yes.
And use it professionally. And I'm going to get to social media towards the end of our conversation. But when you think of social media in today's time, it's kind of hard not to mention the president and Twitter. What's your take? Is he savvy with his Twitter account, or is it something you want somebody to take the phone away from him?
As the leader of the greatest nation on the planet, I wish someone would take his phone away from him and lock it up, and maybe give him a fake phone so he thinks he's actually tweeting. But But
that's fake news.
There you go. I really do. When he was just a citizen, you know what? That was fine. I mean, he, doing his own thing, and that's fine. But when he's representing, everyone in the United States, I mean, people from other countries see what our president is tweeting and the way he puts himself out there. It is embarrassing at times. But let me answer your original question. Is he savvy? Absolutely. The man is borderline genius when it comes to social media. I mean, he made himself, he was probably outside of Justin Bieber or outside of Lady Gaga or somebody like that. He was probably the first social media superstar. And he did it by just telling you exactly what he thought. He didn't run things through filters. When Donald Trump tweeted something, I'm saying going back to 2012, 13, 14, it's what he really thinks. And it's even now when he tweets something, as much as it'll make you cringe sometimes, as much as it'll make you, you're going, oh my God, did the president really just tweet that? Still, you got to respect it because it's what he really thinks.
It's interesting because...
I mean, does that make sense?
No, it does. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense because, the last couple of years, Twitter was getting to this point where they were losing... They were losing followers left and right. I mean, as an organization, as a business model, it just wasn't working. And here comes a presidential campaign. But more so than that, somebody who was had a little bit more shock and awe to his statements, and he was using Twitter to do it. I really think Donald Trump saved Twitter from its own demise.
That is
let alone
that's one of the wisest things I've heard in a long time, and you're absolutely right.
Let alone the extra 140 characters they added. I mean, I think that was just icing on the cake, but I think his shock and awe technique really helped save that company. I mean, for everything that Facebook is getting ridiculed about now, their stocks are tanking. People aren't going to get off Facebook. I mean, yeah, Tesla did, but that was more of I just don't see it happening in mass. And for a big reason is that there's not another one that can take the place of it right now. Twitter's just not it.
Do you not ever, though, look back at MySpace? And I mean, because I was a huge advocate of MySpace. I thought it was awesome. And again, a mutual friend of ours, Jennifer Schrader, was the one that really turned me on to Facebook. Her and Janet Carter, or Janet Sutton, were the two that turned me on to...
Barack Obama was the reason why I got on Facebook.
Really? Okay. But MySpace was, for a minute, for 6 months, for a year, maybe even 18 months, MySpace was the social media. It was amazing. I was blown away that here was a way that you could, it made everyone feel important. And then I don't even know what happened. I don't know what precipitated it changing other than just the rise of Facebook. You don't see something similar happening with Facebook.
I don't see another platform that can duplicate what Facebook's been able to do. I mean, LinkedIn obviously is growing. It's doing big things, and the revenues are growing, and they're doing great things for professionals. But it's not something that my dad's going to get on, right? My dad's not on Snapchat. So it's like, well, he is, but he's not. I mean, the day my dad, who is 70, gets engaged in a social media platform is when I can emphatically say this platform has hit the tipping point. Everything else just windfall. And I remember that day vividly with my dad on Facebook because I went, oh God, now he's there. But there's not another platform. Instagram is doing great things. It's growing. It's big, but it's a Facebook business, so they're going to continue to blend their model. LinkedIn is great. Snapchat. I mean, there's what was the Vine 2 V2 is coming out, but it's still. But you're talking about 6-second video, 10-second video. It's not a social and content rich like what Facebook allows you to do. And Snapchat can't even duplicate the content richness of Facebook in comments and things. So I don't think there's just another platform yet that can beat it. Google obviously failed on that.
Wow. Whatever happened to Google Plus?
Why it's still around, I don't know.
Is it still around? I'm not even sure.
Technically, yes, but it's going away.
MySpace is still around.
Yeah, it is.
I got an email
so is
a
Napster.
couple of weeks ago.
I couldn't believe that.
Really?
Yeah, it's still around.
I didn't realize Napster was, but I got an email a couple of months ago from a buddy or something that said, someone checked out your MySpace profile. And I was like, What? So I got on there, and sure enough, here it was almost like a blast from the past. Did you have a MySpace profile?
Yeah, but I couldn't even tell you what my username was.
If you put your email in, you can check it out. But it was like a blast from the past because this was in that 2006, 2007 window. So I went back in time, and that 1 year period I probably put 300 pictures on there, and it was like looking at a yearbook and looking at a time capsule of where I was as a person. 11 or 12 years ago. You should do that. You should do that too. I mean, it's just neat, and you'll get some good laughs off of it, and you'll go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I was that fat," or whatever at that time. It was amazing. But just to wrap this up, I just wonder, with everything that's going on with all the hearings and everything, I don't think Facebook's in trouble, and I don't mean that. I know you said some of its stocks are tanking and all that, but what I wonder is, will people ever voluntarily just unplug? I mean, I've tried to do that. Was one of my New Year's resolutions for 2018. Not necessarily Facebook, but with just technology in general. Right. Is, with my girlfriend Linda. I mean, I was getting to the point where I was finding that we would go out to eat or we would have dinner, and my phone, which is in my pocket right now, but my phone would be right there on the table beside me.
Right.
And if I felt it buzz, or and I wear a Fitbit, if my Fitbit went off, my first reaction was to reach over and pick up my phone and look at it. And I'm trying to do better with that, and I feel like I have. My point in saying all that is, do you think we're ever going to get to the point, and Molly's coming back over for some more love, are we ever going to get to the point again where, or are we going to get to the point where you just unplug and you just say, you know what, I can't deal with any more of the negativity on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever the medium is at that time, and you do just unplug and you start having more face-to-face relationships?
As a society, as a culture, I don't think I think we're beyond the ability to do that. I think we've become so dependent on it. From Alexa, set an alarm or reminder for me to take out the trash. Mm-hmm. It's Sunday night. I know I'm supposed to take out trash, but I feel like I need to make sure I do it. And I'm doing that all the time. And that was a big part of the reason why I started the podcast late last year. Was I got an Echo Dot for Christmas, and I'm listening to a flash briefing, which basically is like a summary of the news of the day, and I could choose which skills that I choose. Like I've got a Fox and a CNN and a weather, and it kind of gives me a quick 1 to 5 minute synopsis of what's happening. It's like CNN headline news, but and I could choose what it
crafted for BJ Murphy.
Yeah, and so I could choose personal development, motivation, meditation, to quiz of the day, to Wall Street Journal, and that was when I realized how cool that was. So I'm going to take this video that we're doing, this interview, and also it'll double as a podcast, because you listen to podcasts, you might be in the car and you're riding, and I think we've become too dependent on the technology. And that's what's interesting, and I'm curious to watch I'm going to watch, if Zuckerberg ends up testifying, I'm going to watch some of those hearings. But here's the reality. I see some politicians on the talk shows this weekend, and they're talking about, we need to have a hearing because you're using all this information. Politicians have been the worst ones abusing this information. Yes. So they're going to put on some great dog and pony show and be all holier than thou. But the truth is, politicians have won elections based off the data. That is why Facebook embedded people in their campaigns. It is the reason why Barack Obama won his election, was his ability to connect with that millennial, that it was the pre-millennial, that my generation on Facebook, which is the reason why I got on Facebook, and their ability to use that data. But
we had a mayor in Kinston too that won an election that I think was primarily due to the way he used social media.
Well, social media is really important in telling a story. And
you remember that guy, right?
Yeah, I know. He's a good-looking guy. He's about 37 now. He's put on a few pounds, but he's still a great guy. But I'm as a business, because I do social media marketing for small business clients. My biggest thing with social media is use it to tell a story. People don't want to buy from you all the time. They really want to know who you are. I mean, we're literally in your living room. We're in your den. We don't have ties on. You got flip-flops on, for Pete's
well,
sake.
didn't know you would tell her, right? In a T-shirt. Go Takima Parson.
Right. Yeah. And people would much rather get this side of a brand than the polished version.
Yeah.
And I think that's where social media helps. And so I just don't see it going away. I really don't. I think social media and politics is intertwined too.
Well, you may have misunderstood my question.
Okay.
I don't think it's going away per se. I'm just wondering, is it going to take the next big social media to push? What's going to be the next big social medium that's going to push Facebook out of the way? And I know they're doing everything because they thought it was Instagram for a while. So what does Facebook do?
It could be.
They purchase Instagram.
Honestly, it could be something like Amazon decides to build on their platform and build a social component to it. I don't know if they're doing that or not, but augmented reality is becoming more of a reality. Virtual reality is too, but I don't know where we're going to be with that. But as a student of the game, it's fun to watch. Molly's making her cameo now.
What do you think?
So it'd be fun to watch that persist. Let's talk a little bit more about politics real quick.
Okay.
Are you keeping much up with state politics by chance across the state of North Carolina?
Not as much as I used to. I mean, obviously, when I was the editor of the local paper, I did quite a bit. I felt like I needed to, but I really, I don't know what question you're getting ready to ask, but I'm going to preemptively strike. I do think that, the state is overwhelmingly Republican right now. I mean, it is. It's
kind of a purple state.
It is. Well, but when you control both houses,
the governor,
but the lieutenant governor, but not the governorship. I wonder, and I know they drew the lines, Republicans, wisely, and I won't, Democrats to be all upset about how Republicans drew the lines when Democrats drew the lines for a century,
Right. Well, and Republicans couldn't have won.
They couldn't have
without lines that Democrats drew beforehand. So,
exactly. Yeah. But my gut feeling is, and again, being very honest with you, BJ, I am 20% of what I was 16 months ago, 17 months ago on the political scene, especially statewide. I really think the state's getting ready to make another shift back to the left. I really do, and I think I think Governor Cooper winning the gubernatorial race was sort of a sign of that. I really think people are going to be surprised by the gains that Democrats are going to make in the next statewide elections.
Talking about the 2018 elections this fall.
I really do.
Yeah, no, I so could see that. I don't know which seats are most vulnerable and how the party politics play in terms of the numbers, percentage potential, but as a movement, there is definitely that political pendulum. I mean, you could definitely see it swing it, and we'll be interested to see what happens there. But this is what they call it. I think they call it a blue moon election, where there's not a very big statewide campaign going. I mean, there's no U.S. senator on the ballot this year, so it is basically all House and Senate races and the local commissioner and school board races. So there's no major draw to the ticket. And so I'm kind of curious to see how that affects turnout for the state of North Carolina, which could impact this blue wave that we keep hearing and talking about. Because think about it. I mean, just think about it. If Tom Tillis were up for election this year, well, then he and what I would call is more of a moderate conservative. He's more on the center-right side of the aisle. It's kind of where I find myself a lot of times. I think
you're a libertarian.
I really think I'm a lot further right.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to practicality, I understand middle right's kind of probably where I fall. And maybe I'm wrong on that too. But imagine if he were on the ticket, how many millions of dollars we poured in for him and against him. Like when Kay Hagan. I mean, just think about the millions poured in outside. We're not going to have that this year. So the question will be, how are these state House and Senate races affected by that?
I think it's going to be which party really organizes the best. And as you know, I mean, the Democratic Party in North Carolina is very, very strong. I mean, it's very strong. But are they going to be able to mobilize? He said leave him alone. Okay?
No, she's good.
But it's going to come down to who mobilizes the best. And I really think that there is, again, love him or hate him, Donald Trump is really going to have an effect on local races a lot more than people realize. And that's just my opinion. I think, you know, and I'm even going down to, you know, House races, North Carolina House races, North Carolina Senate races. Mm-hmm. That would be, if you're a good person and you're, well, not a good person, but if you are taking care of one of these debates or something like that, I think people are going to ask, what do you think of the president? Do you support the president? Right. And then I think people would make their decision off that. I know if I were still running debates or running forums, mm-hmm. That's would be one of the first questions. Even if, you know, if you were running for mayor, I would ask, what is your opinion of the president and the job that he's doing?
Oh, I can give you that in terms of a local office, but these state offices, it is different because, you know, once you pass the local, and I mean most like mayor, city council, and even after county commissioners, once you pass that level of government, your feelings and thoughts on national policy have more of an impact because you are more identified with a party than you are at a hyper-local level. So it would be interesting to see that. Real quick, because I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to come, Bryan, what he doesn't know, he hasn't known anything we're going to talk about today.
I have no idea whatsoever. But we didn't know that Molly girl was going to be here either, taking over.
But one thing I'm going to come back with is a rapid-fire question and answer round here in a second. But first, if you like social media, you're an entrepreneur, business owner, marketer, we've actually got a closed social media group called Social Media Masterminds. It is all about people who want to, the conversation on Facebook to what's going on LinkedIn or Instagram changes and algorithm. All those kind of things are things we talk about in more of an intimate setting in our closed group. So you've actually got a request to be a part of that group. So go check out the closed Facebook group, Social Media Masterminds.
I'll say this, it's fun to follow. I mean, I'm not as active a member as you and some of the other people that are in that. I know Paul Whittington, I think, is
he's in there.
Someone that does a good job of responding, but I read everything.
Do you really?
Yes, I do.
Are you a lurker?
Everything. Yeah, I like absolutely a lurker. But I think that comes from being in the media. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do in the media.
Kind of read the tea leaves.
Exactly.
No, I get it.
But you guys do a good job, and I'm a huge advocate. I've been a big fan of what you've done from the beginning, the triple M's.
Magic Mile Media. Yes. All right, so rapid fire round. I probably don't have enough questions, but here we go.
Okay.
LeBron or Jordan?
Oh, Jordan, and it's not even close. I think right now, and I know you said rapid fire.
No, that's cool.
Jordan is number one. LeBron still to me is outside the top 5 all time, and I can name the top 5.
Let's hear it. Let's hear
it. Jordan's definitely 1. I think Bill Russell is 2. Wilt Chamberlain's 3. Magic Johnson would be up there. Larry Bird would be up there. And then probably LeBron. I'm not sure LeBron has passed even Bird yet because Bird has 3 championships. He's only got 3. And I don't know. I'm not a LeBron guy. I respect him, and I think he's got the potential to be the greatest of all time, but he's not even in the discussion
Is he the best
with
right
Michael
now?
Jordan. Oh, in the game at the moment? Oh, it's not even close. And he's better than Kobe. See, your question should have been Kobe or LeBron.
Oh, well.
Because I think that's closer. I actually think it's closer because Kobe won more championships. But I think LeBron, having been to the finals now 7 years in a row, that makes him surpass Kobe. But no, and I'm a Virginia guy, as you can tell. I'm an ABC guy just like you.
Anyone but Carolina.
Exactly. But I respect. He may be in the neighborhood, but he lives on the outer part of the neighborhood where Jordan lives in the big mansion.
He's in the cul-de-sac.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Coach K or John Wooden?
Wow. I'd have to say Coach K. And it kind of hurts my heart to have to say that a little bit. But Coach K, because he's playing in a Division I now that has 360 member institutions, Division I. When John Wooden, and playing in an NCAA tournament every year that has 68 teams.
Right.
Even though now Duke's not won really anything the last, when was our last national championship?
Just a few years ago.
2015. Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. But, see, I had to take my shot there at him, okay? But
what have you done for me lately?
There you go. But John Wooden, when he was the head coach, Division I was only about 120 teams, so it was a third of what it is, and there were only 30-some teams in the NCAA tournament. So he only had to win 4 games.
The comparison is Coach K all time, John Wooden all time. But if you look in the scope of Coach K in this era and John Wooden in his era,
Mm-hmm.
would you still choose Coach K?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I would. Again, Coach K has done what he's done, and I know these are rapid fire questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking 3 minutes each to answer.
But no, you answered quick, which is my point.
Yeah.
I wanted.
Well, there you go. But what Coach K has done is he has adapted in a way no other coach ever has, in my opinion. And that's why you have to respect. It's almost like the Jordan thing. I'm not a Jordan fan. For me to give that answer a couple minutes ago about Jordan, I never pulled for Jordan. As a Celtics fan, I hated Michael Jordan.
Right.
And as a Virginia fan, I don't hate Duke or Coach K. I have some personal reasons, as you and I have talked before.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of Coach K as a man.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to have adapted the way he has, from the coach he was in the 80s to the 90s to now, he has completely flipped. He played zone defense this year.
This entire year, yes.
I mean, and this was a man that had never coached zone defense, was always, to me, the man-to-man expert outside of Bobby Knight in college basketball, completely adapted to the talent that he had there, and he's just a great coach. He's an absolutely wonderful coach, and I'm not even sure John Wooden, even though he won all the championships, he would probably be in that 3 or 4 window to me too.
Right.
Listen, don't sleep on Coach old Roy either.
Yeah, no,
Roy Williams has done a fantastic job at Carolina, and the way he has adapted over the years. I think he wanted to follow that Kentucky / Coach K one and done thing, but with all the stuff that was going on with the program, he wasn't able to do it. So he's actually gone back to more of a get the 3-year, 4-year guys in there, and has had success with that.
Right.
Wow. Rapid fire, right?
All right. Wood Ducks or Indians?
Oh, I'm Wood Ducks. I'm Team Wood Ducks.
Yeah.
I mean, I really am.
For those that don't know, that is the minor league franchise here based in our hometown, Kinston, North Carolina. The Kinston Indians was the old team. Down East Wood Ducks is the new team.
Oh, I am dyed in the wool. I love the Wood Ducks. I'm a Texas Rangers fan now because of the Wood Ducks being here. And and I'll tell you the primary reason, and you were intimately involved in all this, and I don't know if people really even realize how much that B.J. Murphy had to do with getting this team back here to Kinston. But the Texas Rangers did something that Cleveland never did. And you're asking if I'm Wood Ducks or Indians. They have invested in our town.
Right.
They have a general manager here who lives here and is part of our community. They have John Clemens and Alexa Kay and Janelle Bullock and all those, Charlie Casey, that everyone is invested in this community. They live here. They're buying houses here. They're not just, living here part-time. I think the Wood Ducks, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, when people see what the Rangers are doing with that stadium out there, again, stuff that then you know more than I know, I'm sure. 3 or 4 years from now, the Wood Ducks are going to be such an integral part, not that they aren't already, but they're going to be a more integral part of our community than they are now. And so, dyed in the wool. Love the Indians. I'll still wear my gear on Thursdays at the ballpark when they have Throwback Thursdays.
Throwback Thursdays.
But, man, I love the Wood Ducks.
Okay, so barbecue, NC East or NC West?
Wait a minute. Now, is this going all over the state, or is this...
you got to make a decision. Rapid fire.
It's got to be Eastern. And I'm going to have people who watch this...
We'll say it one more time.
Eastern.
I got you.
But the thing is, to me, it actually tastes better. Your question couldn't have been any better, because when I was at the ACC tournament the NCAA first round a couple of weeks ago, I went to Shelby, and I had Bridges Barbecue in Shelby just to try it, because I hadn't had it in 10 or 12 years. And theirs is the very ketchup base. For your people who don't know, Eastern barbecue is more vinegar based, and Western North Carolina barbecue is the
more tomato
based, ketchup based, or whatever you want to call it. I did. It was good. I mean, it was barbecue, so it was awesome. But I missed the vinegar. And nobody does it better than Joe and the boys over at King's. And I was happy to get back to Kinston and get some real barbecue in my belly. Okay. I can't believe it. I'll tell you this: 16 years ago when I moved here, I would never have said that.
So we've converted him.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
All right, last on the rapid fire. First female president of the United States. Does it happen in 2020, 2024, or are we more than a decade away?
We're more than a decade away. I don't see any real candidate who would it be? I mean, in 2000, 2004, we knew Barack Obama had a very good chance to be the first African American president.
Right.
Especially after his speech at the Democratic National Convention in 2004.
I watched that speech at least 3 times because I was so impressed by his delivery. You watch that speech with the sound off.
Oh, I know. He's a powerful speaker. Powerful speaker. So, I mean, and I'm comparing, a female president to an African American president. You remember for years, whoever really thought we were going to have an African American president. But he was so powerful. He was such a great orator, and I still think he has a particular strength there. Who is that female? Who can you point at and say it's not Hillary Clinton? God knows it's not Hillary Clinton. But the female
vote sways an election. I mean,
it does.
Females tend to vote as a percentage more so than any other group.
Yeah.
And so I don't know the answer to that question either. But, when the Republicans, Carly Fiorina, I thought she was a solid candidate. She fizzled out pretty quick. It surprised me. Hillary was certainly somebody that the Democrats have pushed for more than a decade. I think that was her biggest drawback is between her and Trump, the unknown, the known about Hillary was worse than the unknown about Trump. And I think that's a lot of people made that decision. They would more rather go with something that they're not really sure of than something they were sure of and they didn't like it.
And what does that say about her as a candidate?
Right.
And I'm using the pronoun her, but I mean, as that person, as a candidate, I mean, that you already knew all that stuff about. But Obama captured the imagination, not just of black folks in America, but also of white folks.
No, he did.
And
hope and change was a big message. And yes, we can.
What female candidate or female personality at this point? Oprah Winfrey, maybe.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I'm just trying to answer your question. I mean, I'm trying to think of who could capture the imagination. Oprah Winfrey, maybe, but I don't think she sold out to it. I mean, why would she? It's almost like when Donald Trump decided to, throw all his cards in and become president. And even on the
Republican side, I'm like, Sarah Palin had that star power, but she lacked some of the oomph that the party needed. Carly Fiorina, she had the oomph, the knowledge, but she lacked some of that star power. And by the time you get through the primary, I mean, it is just imagine winning the NCAA championship. I mean, you got to win 6 games in a row, and it gets harder as you go. I mean, it's just a tough competition. Imagine trying to become the next president. All the things you've got to do behind the scenes to get it going and what it takes, and then knowing your entire family is going to get drugged through the mud. It's going to take a special person. I'd be curious to see. I think the country is ready.
Oh, I do too. Absolutely. I would vote for a woman as quickly as I would a man.
Yeah, me too. Without a doubt.
But who's the candidate?
Yeah,
you've got to have a stronger candidate than a Sarah Palin. And definitely, I hope again I'm not going to get in trouble or with my liberal friends, but I wouldn't have voted for Hillary Clinton if it had been Hillary Clinton versus. Because we knew what was there. It goes back to what you just said. And I didn't vote for Donald Trump either, though.
I get that.
But I would not. I would have voted for Donald Trump before I would have voted for Hillary Clinton.
No, I get that, too.
Because, man, that was such a great point you just made, sincerely, that we already knew what she was. We knew what she would probably be as a president. And I think that's what people rejected 2 years ago.
All right, so I'm going to end this BJ Murphy 360 episode with the question of the day. But here's the thing: Bryan gets to ask the question of the day. So whatever question you want the audience, if somebody has continued watching this after well over half an hour, and they're watching and they're going, "What is Bryan going to ask me right now?"
What is next for you, BJ Murphy?
Oh my gosh.
And see, he's going to end up cutting this, I'm sure, but let's see if he stands to this and he doesn't. What's next for you? Not just professionally. We know you're a good professional. I mean, and everything you've touched has turned to gold. I mean, in my opinion, you really resurrected pride. And see, people are going to think that you set me up for this. I had no idea he was going to ask me this question. But everything you've touched, I mean, you've been very successful with professionally. You have been politically, too. What is next for you? What is next for BJ Murphy politically?
So is that something?
Look, he's blushing. So I got it now. You're cutting this, aren't you? You're going to cut this, aren't you?
So is this something they're supposed to answer, or is this something you want me?
I want you to answer. I want you to answer.
Okay. So I kind of was hoping that we'd get the people to respond. So I will tell you that that I was expecting to win last year, I knew I could lose. And so mentally, I was still surprised, but okay with it. In fact, a lot of people were asking me, BJ, are you okay? You okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. BJ's okay. I mean, I that's the thing. Being mayor wasn't the career, right?
Yes,
it was a part-time deal. So even though I had served for 8 years, it wasn't like it was my career, right? It was just my way of giving back. So I immediately decided after the election, after some time, that it was too short to make any decision for 2018. That the idea of trying to run for House or Senate or something else, the amount of the handshaking and meetings I'd have to go to and money I had to raise, I had just exhausted 6 months of my life trying to maintain a job I really wanted to have. So 2018 was out, which means the next logical thing is what I'm going to do in 2020. And so the way I figured is I've got at least 2 years to continue building my business, getting it where I want it to be, where it's sustainable. And then if I feel comfortable enough where my business is, I'll have the ability to make a decision then. I'm not going to rule out a run for statewide office. I'm not going to rule out a run for House or Senate or for Congress. I'm just not going to rule any of it out. In fact, in my opinion, they're all on the table. But the good thing about it is I've got about a year or so to make that decision. So am I out of politics? No, I don't think so. Will my role be in elected office when it comes to politics? Maybe. So we'll see.
Well, how much pride do you take in the fact? Okay, I'm getting into 2 questions, but how much pride do you take in the fact that your name is still, well, not still, but it is still bandied about big time in political circles in Raleigh and in Eastern North Carolina? I mean, every time you hear of someone may not run for X office, I'm not going to name any. BJ Murphy's name is the one that comes up.
I think that has a lot to do with just being young and experienced in office. I mean, our town, 21,000 people, our budget's $100 million. That's nothing to sneeze at. Almost 400 employees. There are 6 egos on that bench plus a professional staff. So I understand what it takes to manage a budget, other egos and personalities. And, if you talk about the partisan side of it, I was the only Republican serving, even though we were able successful to get it changed to nonpartisan. And so I really brought it down to, I was really more about trying to make sure everybody got heard, and then we made the right decision. And trying to facilitate the capital C, the city of Kinston, as well as the lower C, the community, the people. I enjoyed that a lot. But having served at 29 through 37, I think just because, look, even last year, people were saying, what are you running for next? Before my election was even over. And I'm going, this is the 4th time I filed for this office. This is the office I'm seeking. And I think that has to do with being young, having some success in politics. And I think the fact that my loss wasn't necessarily an indication of me or anything I had done. And I think that may help in terms of what I may do next, because I didn't lose based on my own merits, if that makes any sense. And maybe I'm wrong on that. That's just what I think. So,
I think that's pretty much a consensus.
So we'll see. But the good thing is I don't have to see. So he messed up my question of the day. It was really designed for y'all, but he ended up asking me the question. That's perfectly fine. I will not edit it just because he called me out on it. Any final parting words?
No, this was awesome. This was a lot of fun. I cannot remember the last time I was interviewed for anything, and I'm not sure. It's been a long time since, I guess, we made the WRAL made the Basketball Town video. I can't remember the last time I was set with lights. And you should see this, folks. I mean, he's got professional lighting. He's got everything set up.
Yeah, and Molly makes her appearances. That was all part of the script. So until next time, make sure you like and share this, and tag a friend who you think would get some enjoyment out of it. Bryan, as always, appreciate it, my friend.
My honor.
Thank you very much. Y'all take care, and this was to your success.